Alright guys, what's up? We got Christian here who's going to show you a little project. Yeah, we're going to build it in real time, and we're going to use a couple components from the starter kit and the hue lights, yeah.
Hey guys, so today we're going to use the starter bundle, which consists of 2 Q clients and a Q server, as well as our Q starter kit, 4 Philips Hue lights, the Philips Hue bridge, our server, and 1 client to make a motion sensor for Hue lights.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get started. First, from our starter kit, we'll be pulling 1 HC-SR01 motion sensor and 3 male to female jumper wires.
And now how many clients are we going to use?
We're just going to use this singular client.
Okay.
One of the 2.
Could I also have a second client with a second motion sensor?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You could use a second motion sensor in a different room to control a different grouping of lights if you wanted to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Alright, so now that we have all of our parts together, we're gonna set up the Philips Hue gateway with our system so that our server can communicate with the Hue lights.
Okay.
To do this, we'll navigate to the library from your server. Go to gateways, we'll download the Philips Hue gateway, and then we're going to go to our gateways section. You can navigate there on the left-hand toolbar. From here, you go to start, but before you do that, make sure you hit the pair button on your Philips Hue bridge. Go to start, it'll find the IP address of your bridge, it'll configure it, and it'll give you your username, and now your Hue bridge or Hue gateway is good to go. Now, we'll go to our client section, where these are our 4 Hue lights. These are the names of them. Those are the names we gave them in our Hue app. And now we're just gonna verify that they're actually working and functioning with the system. So we're gonna create a new app. I'm gonna call this one Motion plus Hue. Super simple. And we're gonna drag 4 light hardware objects onto the canvas.
I could also just go with 1 light for now, right?
Yeah, you could go with just 1 light.
Okay.
Here, we can actually do that.
So we just take 4 lights right now, so we can control all the 4 lights we have here right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we always suggest giving your lights and every single object in an application a name. Just makes it much easier to identify the parts of your application. Make sure when you're renaming, like I just did there, the objects in your application, you always hit the Save Properties button before you navigate to a different object. Otherwise, the changes you made will not be saved. All right, so here's the 4 lights. Very simple. And then we're gonna add 4 switch objects. Interface objects.
Could I also start with just like 1 switch for now and like have 1 switch control all the lights?
Yeah, we can do that now.
Okay.
So here you go. You go from the state port, the state output port on your switch object, and you connect that to the on-off ports on your lights. And we'll just name this switch. And it's labeled as switch automatically. So now this switch will enable us to control the 4 Philips Hue lights from our dashboard. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this app. I'm gonna navigate back to my applications page. I'm gonna go to Motion plus Hue. I'm gonna play it, and now this opens the application mapper. So light 1, select one of the lights. Light 2, select the next one. Light 4, the next. Light 3, the last. Let's see. Alright, just making sure I've mapped those properly.
Okay. And now we have a dashboard app.
Yep. So we open up the dashboard, and this for every single application that's generated on our canvas. You're using interface objects. It'll automatically generate a user interface on your dashboard so that you can control it from your computer, your iPhone, your iPad, basically any internet connected device. So this simply just gave us a switch, and now once we cycle this, all of our lights should turn off.
Oh, there we go. Actually turned on. Can you turn it on again?
Yep. There we go.
Cool.
Now it's on.
Nice.
The reason why this 1 light is green is because in the Philips Hue app it was set to green.
Okay.
Normally it would just be white We can also change that. And also, with our system, we can change the color.
Right, yeah, I saw that on the object. There was a RGB.
Yeah, here we can navigate back to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to edit the app again anyways, so. There's our RGB color. So via the interface, you can go down to color picker. You can drag in a color, and that will set the color of the light. Okay. And you can do that for all 4, or you can do it for just a select few.
Right. Okay, but we want to do the motion sensor today, so let's focus on that. So what do we have to do next?
Okay, so now we need to drag in a motion sensor hardware object. Name it aptly. And the basic sequence for the lights that we want is we want the motion sensor to detect motion, turn the lights on, and then wait for a number of minutes. If it doesn't receive another motion signal, to turn the lights off. Right. So let's say you've left the room, there's no longer motion in the room. We want our lights to then cycle off.
Right.
So in order to do that, we'll drag out the motion sensor. And then from here...
So that motion sensor object on the screen will talk to this motion sensor, right?
So this motion sensor correlates to this client and this sensor.
Okay.
So once this is triggered, the client will communicate with the server, which will then communicate with the Philips Hue gateway, and that will
turn on the lights.
Turn on the lights,
okay,
exactly.
That's the app that you're building right now.
Precisely.
Okay.
So for this, we'll use the data sequence object. This is under the code section. So we're gonna have the motion detected port on the motion sensor send the signal to the data sequence. So now this sequence will follow these trigger output ports in this sequence. So it'll go trigger 1, trigger 2, trigger 3, trigger 4, and so on. So the first action we want in the sequence is for the switch to toggle on the lights. After that, we're going to want a timeout.
Oh, I think I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. A timeout. This is also in the code section. We're just going to enable this timeout. We'll also label this.
So the timeout turns off the lights after some time, correct?
Exactly. So once this block is triggered via the import, it'll wait for the specified amount of time that you've given it in the delay port until it executes the trigger or sends out the next signal. So we'll connect this timeout to any of the subsequent trigger ports on the data sequence, and then we'll connect that out port to the state port on the switch. And then we can set the delay to, we'll do 10,000 milliseconds.
That would be how many?
That's 10 seconds. We can also make it numerous minutes. We can make it as long as we want it.
Okay, so I can come back to this app and adjust the timeout at a later point?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So now that's the general basis for our application. Now we need to set up the client and the hardware to accept the motion sensor. So what you'll need for this, as we've already stated, is the motion sensor, 3 male to female jumper wires, and a small flat-headed screwdriver.
Okay, and then we do have documentation for this, right?
Oh yeah. Almost forgot. So if you go to our Confluence page under our hardware reference, you can find examples for how to wire this motion sensor and any of the other devices that can be used with our client. We already have documented. This includes schematics, breadboard layouts, tables for the pins, how to write a basic application using the piece of hardware, and also the firmware that you'll ultimately need on the client to use that device. So those are really helpful when you're trying to try something new and learn something new with their system.
So you use this to wire the motion sensor correctly to the client?
Exactly.
Okay.
So now we need to navigate to our firmware page, pick the create new, and we'll name this firmware motion sensor.
Okay, so now we just create the firmware first and then we're gonna do the wiring afterwards?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be good to build your actual hardware based off of the firmware. It just depends on what you prefer.
Because I can select any ports essentially that I want to use, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So motion sensor. Here we're going to go to the driver, and we're going to select the HC-SR501 motion sensor. Is the motion sensor that we're using for the pin. We're going to select GP0. So this corresponds to the actual GP0 pin on the client.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll save that. And then we'll navigate over to our clients page. We'll plug in our client.
Is this client already paired, or do we need to pair it?
No, we need to pair it. So you'll see here the clients that we have paired are the devices from the Philips Hue, the lights, and then we also have the proxy. But now here's our client. It's been discovered by our server. We go to actions and we hit pair. So we'll wait for a second for the client to pair. It's now paired. We can test that it's paired by going to the client and selecting identify under the actions panel. That'll flash the LEDs. But to make things simple, right now we only have one client in use, but let's say you have 5 in use. It can get confusing with the numbers assigned to them. So you can always just go to edit and you can rename your client. So we'll name this one motion sensor. We'll save that. So now let's go to firmware. And here's the motion sensor firmware. We'll now go to upload. And then we'll upload it to the client that we've named motion sensor.
Okay. And then what? From where is like this file coming from, and like how is it getting to the client?
So basically, we're generating this code in our actual generator on our servers, and then that's going to the server, and then the server is uploading that firmware to the client.
Okay, so it's all wireless, and I don't need to plug my client in anywhere?
No, not at all. It's all done via Bluetooth communication from your server to the client.
Okay.
So yeah, now we'll just wait a moment for that to upload. We'll see that the LED has gone off on the client. And once the client is available for use again, the LED will begin to flash.
Okay. And then maybe can you explain like all the outputs on the motion sensors, on the motion sensor?
Yeah. So basically, this is the ground pin, the output pin, and the VCC or voltage pin.
Okay. And I saw like 2 screws like on the others, or like things that you can adjust. So what can I do with
Yeah. So you can find all of this on our documentation page, but one of these selects the sensitivity of the actual motion sensor, and the other one selects the timeout. So
there's an internal timeout on this thing as well?
Yeah, there's an internal timeout on this motion sensor.
Okay.
So it'll give you time in between when another body can be detected.
Right.
By motion.
But I can also like extend that signal using the software in the server, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, always. So now the firmware has been successfully uploaded. You'll get a notification in your notifications bar that it's been successfully uploaded. And also during the upload process, you can always see where it's at. So we'll give you a percentage on the upload.
Right.
And that can be very useful. So now we'll just start by connecting these jumper wires to the pins. So this first wire from left to right, this one's ground. So you connect that to the ground port on your client. The second one is your data or your output pin, so we'll connect that to GP0. That's the pin we designated in our firmware.
Oh yeah, so on the firmware file you selected GP0, right?
Exactly.
I could also use like any other pin.
You could use any other pin.
Yeah, in case I have like more devices attached to it. Yeah.
You could also use SDA and SCL communication and an MCP port expander if you wanted to, but that just overcomplicates things for our purposes here.
Okay.
Then you connect the last pin, the rightmost pin, to 5 volts on the client.
Awesome.
So now we can go to the clients page, and we can, so this is our client we named motion sensor. We can go to debug, hit debug, and you'll see now that this is the hardware or the device that's on your client. And so this is the driver of the motion sensor that we put on there. So now to test before we even use the application, we can do notify for 10 seconds. We'll wave our hand in front of it, and it will notify of a detection.
Okay. So that seemed to work.
Yeah, so that's a good way to test the hardware that you put on your clients to make sure that they're functioning properly or not. So that's a really good method for debugging in the workflow. So now we can go to motion hue, and we will pair the motion, or map the motion sensor to the motion sensor in the application. Hit done. Now this should function properly. So it detected our motion, our bodies instantaneously.
Okay, now we can wait for the 20-second timeout, right? So okay, so we'll try to not.
Let's try not to move. Here, I can also just unplug this data line.
No, just leave it like this. We can just want the lights to turn off after the 20 seconds. All right, yeah, it seems like the lights are actually not turning off, so I think we have to go back to the app and...
Yeah, I think we might have missed something there. I think what the issue is that from the data sequence, we're triggering the timeout, and the timeout's sending out a high signal, high digital signal, and because of that, the switch isn't oscillating back. It's not turning off. It's just staying high once the signal is being sent out from the timeout. So in order to get this to work properly, we need to put a digital knot on the timeout. So this timeout will then trigger this timeout will trigger the digital knot, but we'll do the timeout is sending from the out port the signal to the in port on the digital knot, and we'll also have this in port set to trigger through the properties panel, and then from there we'll connect the output port on the digital knot to the state port on the switch, and we'll just name this one knot.
Okay. Right. So this will just invert the signal which comes out of the timeout, right?
Exactly, which should then allow the switch to turn off.
Okay, and then do I need to do the hardware mapping again?
No, because we
just start the app.
We can just start the app because we've already done the hardware mapping and the hardware hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
The mapping holds true until you reset the mapping or add new objects.
Okay. So I can also use that.
Yeah. So you can hit this play button in the upper right hand corner of the screen. So now we'll navigate back to the dashboard. And so yeah, the motion turned on the lights, and now they've turned off after 2 seconds.
Okay.
So the motion should turn them back on.
Cool.
And then after 2 seconds, they should turn off.
Nice. Okay, so I could literally have a motion sensor in every room essentially, and just build this. And how much is this? Like a motion sensor like this, like price wise?
Motion sensor like this, especially if you buy them in a multiple pack, multi-pack. For 5 of them, it would probably cost you $15 maybe. Okay. Maybe that's it's a conservative estimate.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, you can put these all throughout your house, every single room. Each application can control different lights, or each sensor in one application can control a different grouping of lights. So you have a very versatile lighting system here.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Christian, for showing us this project, and yeah, we see you in the next episode.
Wonderful.